قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this live episode of Ask Zad. Our first caller for today is Juwayriya from France.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, can you please explain what is being arrogant towards Allah? Like the characteristics of a person who is arrogant towards Allah. Barakallahu feekum.
Ufikum barakallah. Arrogance is one of the major sins that might take a person out of the fold of Islam if it was with Allah Azza wa Jal. If it's with humans, it's a major sin. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wassalam, he who has an ant weight of arrogance in his heart will not be admitted to Jannah. So with people, arrogance is when you reject the truth when it comes to you, or look down at people as if they are of a lesser quality, whether due to their ethnicity, due to their color, due to their nationality, due to their social status. This is arrogance. When it comes to Allah Azza wa Jal, rejecting Allah's commands, thinking that they are not equal to other commands. For example, implementing man-made law and preferring it over Sharia and believing that it is better than Sharia law or equivalent to Sharia law. This nullifies a person's Islam and takes him out of the fold of Islam, as mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah in 3 places, that whomever does not implement the Sharia, the law of Allah Azza wa Jal, then they are the disbelievers, they are the transgressors, they are the sinners. To refuse to prostrate to Allah Azza wa Jal out of arrogance, as some of the disbelievers said, I would never have my backside above my head, meaning criticizing prostration. This is arrogance, the arrogance of Satan, when he defied a straight order, a direct order from Allah to prostrate to Adam. He said, nope, I'm better than him. You created me from fire and created him from clay. And the likes, when you believe that you are better, you are more intellectual, you have more logic. This all means that you've lost the essence of being in need of Allah, of being a servant of Allah, of being submitting your will to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is when it becomes something that nullifies your Islam, and Allah knows best. Ismail from Bahrain.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, I have 2 questions.
Yes. One
The
only.
first one is that, sorry?
One only.
Okay, Sheikh. There's my one friend. He, in order to stop doing a sin, he said that he made a promise to Allah that if he does it again, he won't be a Muslim. But he fell into that and he did it. Now, what should he do now?
This is ignorance from your friend's side, and alhamdulillah, it doesn't take him out of the fold of Islam, but it was a major sin. So if he made such a pledge that if I were to do such a thing, then I'm not a Muslim anymore. And he did not mean that he would become a kafir. Rather, he meant to say something that would deter him and stop him from doing such a sin. And he felt, or he fell weak and did it. He does not become a kafir, but he has to expiate for the oath he broke, and he has to repent and ask Allah for forgiveness and feel deep remorse in him, and Allah knows best. Amina from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So I was reading a book called Fatawa for Women, and in the book it says that if you see yellowish and brownish spotting immediately after your period, that is not considered part of the period. And at the end of it, say Sheikh bin Baz. But also I've heard before that the yellowish and the brownish spotting after period is part of the period that we should wait based on the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. So I'm a little bit confused now.
Most likely, Amina, you've misread the fatwa. And betting is haram, but if it was halal, I would have bet on that. The fatwa of Ibn Baz is well known. Sheikh Ibn Baz, may Allah have mercy on his soul, says that if you see yellowish or brownish discharge before your period starts and you have the associated characteristics such as the back pain and the likes, then you should consider this to be part of your period. But if you end your menses and you see, underline this, and you see your purity and make ghusl, and afterwards you see yellowish or brownish discharge, this is to be disregarded. The last part is in accordance to what Atiyah, may Allah have mercy upon her, may Allah be pleased with her. She was one of the companions, and she narrated that we women folk at the time of the Prophet ﷺ did not consider yellowish or brownish discharge after seeing the sign of purity to be anything. We would disregard it. So this is what Sheikh bin Baz used to give fatwa upon. And hence, I think most likely, and I'm almost certain, that you've misread your fatwa. So kindly go and read it once again to verify what I said. Ammar from Tunisia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, my friend, he told me that he will score 19 out of 20 as a general grade at the end of the semester.
He was doing what, ya Ammar?
He told me that he will score 19 out of 20 as a general grade at the end of the semester.
Okay.
At school. So I told him, this is not possible, but if he manages to do that, I will give him 100 dinar. So now, I know this is halal because it's only a reward, but my concern is that 2 weeks approximately later, he told me if I manage to score 12 or more, he would give me 100 dinar. So now I don't know anymore, is this still halal? Jazakallah khair.
Wajazak. Now, again, your pledge to give him this amount, was it if he were to score 19 out of 20?
Yes, yes.
This is binding. What he said afterwards, 12 out of 20, this is up to you. If you say, okay, again, this is a conditional gift. And this is not a bet. And there is no gambling in it. It's a halal gift. You tell your friend, you tell your son, you tell your neighbor, if you do this task, I'll give you this. This is called ju'ala in fiqh, in Arabic. It's a gift appointed upon a particular and specific task. So again, if your friend is greedy and he sees you as a sugar daddy and says, okay, if I get 12 out of 20, you should be ashamed of yourself. 60 out of 100 and you still want to be rewarded? What is this? But if you're generous and you have money and you still don't believe in him and think he wouldn't get 12, and you agree that it would be binding, but it's not haram or anything else, alhamdulillah. Muhammad from the US.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam.
Akbar Salam once saw a man sitting and leaning on the heel or the palm of his left hand behind his back, and he said, and I quote, "Are you sitting in the manner of those with whom Allah is angry with sit," end quote. Who is the Prophet ﷺ referring to here in this hadith? Jazakallah khair.
Wajazakum. It is prohibited for Muslims to sit and lean back on the palm of the left hand, doing this. So you lean back only on the open palm of your left hand. This is the way that the Jews pray or sit, according to the hadith. And this is prohibited. To do it on both hands, no problem. To do it on the fist of your left hand, no problem. In that, the haram is to lean back on the palm of the left hand, and Allah knows best. Anna from Uganda.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, this is a question that I had asked some time back, but my line wasn't clear, so you weren't able to get the question right. So the question was, there are VPNs that give free data to access the internet, and in my country, we majorly have two network providers. The first network provider blocked us from getting this free data, and the second network provider, it is still working. Now I was thinking that when we use this free data, because it is reasonable that when we use this free data, we don't buy the data that the network providers provide. So I was like, is it wrong for us to use this?
No, there is no problem, Anna. Listen to me. Any network provider, if there is a contract between us and I signed a contract, this contract is binding. If the network provider is open in the air and they say don't use our network unless you buy the data from us, okay, restrict me. If I can get access to free data and I open my Wi-Fi and it says this network provider and this network provider are available, and I choose anyone I want. You don't want me to access it, block me. But if it's found in the air openly and I'm not cheating and I'm not going against any contract that I've signed, there's no problem in using it at all. Basin from Jordan.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
Sheikh, I'm looking for a job as a teacher, English teacher for a girl student. And there is a woman who will be a mediator between me and a man who is responsible for these things. So I will be a reason for many callings and many attachments, and she will connect too much with this man. So I want to ask if the job will be haram, because I will be a reason for many communication between these two persons.
The job, listen to me, Besan. The job is halal because you are teaching women, you're teaching girls. So your job description is halal. What this woman is doing is sinful for herself. You did not force her, you did not put a gun to her head, and with you or without you, she is freely mixing with men and communicating with them. So there is nothing wrong in you getting the job through her, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Khurram from Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
How are you, Sheikh, today?
Alhamdulillah.
Sheikh, my question for today. Last time you guided that if a lady has bleeding most of the month, that's istihad, and once proven, she needs to revert back to her old cycle days. It is said that because periods can become longer or shorter as long as they're within 15 days, so her old reference would be the last period cycle before istihad occurred. However, she doesn't know how many days they were exactly, but roughly recalls that very, very long ago. She used to bathe around 8th day, but there could be a possibility that she identified her purity incorrectly at that time. In her last 2 cycles, the second last bleeding lasted initially for a few days, then during 8th to 12th day, it was prominent brown discharge. On 13th till 15th day, the discharge turned yellow. She doesn't know if that yellow was normal discharge, or to be taken as istihad, but seemed light. And in the last period, she experienced small, tiny particles of menstrual remains till and even after 15th day. In this case, since she does not know which previous cycle to refer to, if she differentiates between color, what are menstrual remains to be categorized as? Lastly, can she simply take bath after 15 days without making up any prayers? She has not made up prayers for the last 2 times, even though after the first time of yellow discharge at the end of her menses, she thought of taking the yellow discharge not as a normal one.
Okay, Khurram, this is too long. If she is not aware of the number of days she had a fixed period, in this case, she refers to her women folk. She refers to the women in her family, her siblings, her cousins and aunts, and mother. And most likely they would have a similar pattern or a menstrual cycle similar to one another. So if they all say that our menses is usually 7 days, she takes that. If they say 8 days, she takes that, and Allah knows best. Elisa from Belgium.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam to Allah.
My question is, the only mosque in my city has only one prayer room, and so it is a mixed mosque, and there is no entrance for women and one for men, and it's a common door. Is it allowed to go and pray to this mosque?
Of course it is allowed to pray in that masjid, because the Prophet's masjid, alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was alive and afterwards, did not have a segregation between the men's section and the women's section as we have today. So it was all open. However, the Prophet made it clear that the worst of women's rows is the first, and the worst of men's rows are the last. And the best of men's rows are the first, and the best of women's rows are the last. So that they would be as far as possible. And even when he completed his prayer, he would not turn around, and he would give some time for the women to cover up or to leave the masjid, and men would not move as well. So definitely, yes, you can go and pray in that masjid. Jan from England. Jan?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
I just wanted to ask you, is it permissible to play Among Us? It's like a game where you have to pretend to be a murderer and you like kill people, and you're like a sussy imposter, and basically people have to try to guess who the killer is, and it's based on lying. So
usually I don't like commenting on video games and games that are online as such, because the amount of haram is a lot in it, and the people are so hooked into it that your answer might be quite weird to them. Now, to me, there are essentials and important things and priorities in life. Are video games part of them? No. Now, when we are asked about video games, And people say, Sheikh, there's a game that is based on hijacking or stealing or hot wiring a car and running away from police. It's fun, Sheikh. Can we play it? I said, these things in real life, are they halal or haram? It's haram. Okay, what about killing one another, Sheikh? We are teams and we kill and shoot. It's a shooting game. And we kill one another and we hide in a maze. And when we find our opponent, we kill him. And he has a name and we know him. What's the ruling on killing in Islam? Sheikh, it's a game. So if there's a game based on rape and you can keep on raping people, is that fun? It's a game. No. Haram in real life is haram also in virtual life, because this is how you're brainwashed. This is how you're set. Why do we say Allahu Akbar more than 300 times a day? Why do you say praise be to Allah? Why do you say glorified is Allah Azza wa Jal? This is heart washing, not brainwashing, because it elevates you and gets you closer to Allah. The opposite is the same. When you only listen to rap music that praises killing and looting and drugs and women, or you play such games that legitimizes such haram activities, then this is what you end up doing, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Yunus from India.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, in almost all democratic or non-Muslim countries, Sheikh, we hear many cases where parents of revert torture them with the fact that their children had reverted to Islam. We actually hear their torture giving to their children. In such case, we as being neighbors to them, should we settle the matter by talking to them where I think they will not listen to us? Or should we complain to the police against such cruel parents? And I doubt the case may get more worsened. What should I do in such cases? Jazakallah khair.
Wa jazakum. In such cases, akhi, you should refer to the scholars of your country. They know the legal system. They know the social network that's happening and the implication, the consequence of any action to be taken. I cannot give you my own opinion, which might not be based on facts. And then it may lead to something that is worse to that individual or to the community at large. So my advice would be to go and check with the scholars of your country, the real practicing knowledgeable scholars. Inshallah, they'll give you an answer to that, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort? Whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life? Allah will undoubtedly test him to see if his faith, trust, and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested until he meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back. We have Danielle from Iraq.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So, Sheikh, in a Sahih Hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, whoever says La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la lahul mulk wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir will have the reward of freeing 10 slaves. And we know if we break an oath, we have to either free a slave or feed 10 poor people or clothe them. And if we cannot, we have to fast 3 days. So can I say that adhkar to expiate a broken oath?
The answer is no. You cannot do this because there is a difference between a reward and an expiation. And I'll give you an example. If someone pledges and says, by Allah, I will recite the full Quran if Allah Azza wa Jal cures my son, and my son is cured. And I look at the Quran and said, whoa, this is going to take me a week. So I hear a hadith where the Prophet says, alayhi salam, reciting Qul huwa Allahu ahad 3 times is equivalent to reciting the Quran. I said, okay. And I recited 3 times and it's sufficient. Is it sufficient? I'll give you a better example. Maybe this is not clear. Is your prayer valid without reciting Al-Fatiha? The answer is no. You have to recite the Fatiha. So if I recite Qul huwa Allahu ahad 3 times in every rak'ah without the Fatiha, based on if I recite it 3 times, I've read or I have the word of the full Quran, would my prayer be valid? Of course not. I have to recite the Fatiha once. Another example. The Prophet said, whoever prays Fajr in the masjid and remains in his spot, remembering Allah Azza wa Jal till the sun rises, then he prays 2 rak'ah. This is equivalent to Umrah and Hajj, complete. So if I do this once or even every single day, does this exempt me from performing Hajj once in a lifetime, which is fard and one of the pillars of Islam? Of course not. So there is a difference between something that you're rewarded for, but it does not take away from you any responsibility or obligation. And there is a difference between something that you're commanded to do. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. And this is, by the way, in Arabic, they call it al-ijza wa al-jaza, whether it suffices or it's rewarding. Binta from Italy. Binta. Najwa from the UK. Najwa. Okay. Yunus from Germany. Alaikum assalam to Allah.
So if I repent one sin, then like if I drink wine, I have to quit.
I do not understand what you're saying, Yunus.
If I repent from one sin, then like if I drink wine, then I have to quit. I have to regret and intend never to do it again. Now I don't quite know how do I repent from all sins at once. Like, okay, I can regret everything and I can quit everything I know of, but I don't know what to intend. Should I intend never to sin again? Should I intend never to repeat any sin? Please tell me exactly what to intend for the future. I made much research, I didn't get an answer. I still don't know. So you can maybe tell me a sentence, I will do this and I will quit this. I hope it's clear.
No, it's not clear. Definitely it's not clear. I've committed 1,000 sins. Now I feel remorseful and I want to repent. Are you telling me that I have to list down these 1,000 sins and do, okay, number 1, I repent, I feel remorse, I will not do it again. Number 2, I repent, I feel remorse, I will not do it again. Number 3, this is crazy. One of Allah's beautiful names is At-Tawwab, which has 2 meanings. Meaning number 1, He alone is the one who guides us to repent. That's why we have thousands and hundreds of thousands of, or millions of people who are not repenting. Why don't all of these people repent and go back to Allah? Because Allah did not allow them to repent. And why didn't Allah allow them to repent? Because they don't want to repent. So Allah keeps them in their darkness. Us, Allah Azza wa Jal gave us His favors and blessings and guided us to repent. The other meaning of At-Tawwab is that Allah Azza wa Jal, when we repent, He accepts our repentance. This is how we perceive Allah Azza wa Jal. This is how we deal with Allah. And this is where you're failing, when you think that, oh, Allah is waiting to just throw me in hell. If you have committed sins, express your poverty to Allah. Show Him your desperation and need for forgiveness, and simply repent. The problem is that when you repent and you have these feelings, your devil comes out and says, oh, then this means that you're not going to make any sins in the future? This is impossible. I have to do some sins in the future. So now you're confused. And this is why you're allowing shaitan to mess up with your head. And him messing up in your head is causing you to think negatively of Allah. This is not applicable. How is it possible to remember all the sins that I have done? And does remorse and the intention not to make any sins mean that I don't have to sin in the future, but I know that I will fall into sin because I'm weak, I'm human. So Satan says, then might as well call it a day and don't repent, because it's inapplicable. And of course, this is Satan's whispers in your ears, and your fault is you're opening the door and inviting him in. And may Allah Azza wa Jal make things easy for us. Abdul Malik from France.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
May Allah give you a Bugatti for helping me, inshallah.
Ameen, and you as well.
Ameen, you as well.
So I want to ask you, I want to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the timing of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is for Isha prayer. And you know, I want to know if I can do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and pray Isha prayer at home instead of the mosque. The mosque is very near the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu course.
No, do Aikido. Do Japanese Aikido. Well, how would I know which one is best for you? Akhi, if Jiu-Jitsu contradicts with the time of prayer, what is your priority? Jannah, the pleasure of Allah. Then you have to cater-make or tailor-make your daily activities to revolve around prayer times. You have to fit your schedule around prayer times, not the other way around. Yes, if there were other Muslims in the gym where you can take 10 minutes pause and pray Isha and come back to the session, that's good. But to skip Isha prayer for Jiu-Jitsu or for Aikido or for Hapkido or for Taekwondo or whatever, this is not permissible. What is your priority as a Muslim? This is not something that is your bread and butter, your food on the table that you have to earn. No, this is a sports, it's a hobby. And therefore, this is not permissible, akhi. Imtiaz from Canada.
Sheikh, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, Sheikh, I used to live with one of my friends and he used to do shoplifting for groceries. So suppose if he did a shopping of $100, he would only pay $50. So now he left the house, but he left back some groceries like oil, sugar, almonds and everything. And I do not know if those are stolen or paid for. So is it permissible for me to use those?
If you know that your friend is a shoplifter and he's a thief, how could you live with someone like that and consume the groceries he brings? This is not permissible. And hence, whatever he brought to the house of his own, not from your money, but of his own, you have to dispose of that and give it to charity because you don't know if it's stolen or not. And as you say, 50% of it is stolen. A'udhu billah. I don't know how you could even have a friend like this. May Allah protect us. Musa from Azerbaijan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Sheikh, if there is a negligible amount of urine, like the size of the top of a needle, on the prayer mat, but there are several of them in different parts of mat, but each of them is negligible in amount. But if you put them together, it may be at the size of half of a drop or more. Some of them just happened in different times. Can I pray on this mat?
Of course not. Even if it's negligible. Musa, how is this logical? That all our questions, all our lives revolve around a tiny negligible drop of urine that is making my life miserable. I don't know if I dropped it here or there. What are you, leaking all the way? Oh, and on prayer mats and on different prayer mats. Either this is a made-up question that hypothetically is going around your head, or if it's a correct scenario it's taking place. If it's real, you have a problem in your life. If it's hypothetical, this is not the time to ask hypothetical questions because shaitan is messing up with your head. Analyze your daily routine and you'll find that 95% of it revolves around intrusive thoughts, exaggeration, and overthinking. What if this take place? What if I dropped something 6 years ago and I forgot it? What if? This is how shaitan messes up with your life. And the biggest problem is not that. The biggest problem with all OCDers that come to me is that they do not find the sweetness of salat. They don't concentrate in prayer. They don't love ibadah. All their forms of worship is like a mountain suffocating them. It's on their chest. They can't breathe because Satan is making it hard for them. You have to get out of this vicious loop, this vicious circle. or it will destroy your life forever. Suad from UK.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, I am aware that it's not recommended to raise one's hands and make dua after obligatory prayer. However, is it okay to raise hands and make dua during sunnah prayer, like the 12 rakah sunnah or salatul dua?
Yani, do you mean that while I am praying duha prayer, if I raise my head from the first sujood and I'm sitting between the two sujoods and I say, Oh Allah, ighfirli, irhamni, irzuqni, do you mean this?
No, I mean after the salam.
After
like
the
to raise
salam,
hand and make dua.
listen to me. Making it a habit to raise your hands after fard salah or voluntary salah is an innovation. Making it every time is an innovation, is a bid'ah. Now, let me ask you a question, Suad. Why do you raise your hands and make dua? What do you want? Suad?
I pray for my family or myself. I pray for my health. Want to make dua for my parents and myself.
You want Allah to answer you, right?
Yes, Sheikh.
Okay. If you know that Allah pledged upon himself to answer you if you're doing your dua in sujood, would you still do it after salah? Yes or no?
Yes. No, Sheikh.
See, this is the problem. The imbecile brother who said yes, it shows that he's not even understanding what I'm saying. Allah, the Almighty, told us, and the Prophet ﷺ told us in an authentic hadith, the closest you are to Allah is when you are in sujood. The Prophet goes on to say, so make and choose whatever dua you want in sujood. So who in his right head and mind would neglect making dua in sujood as the Prophet directed us and ordered us? He says, no, I want to make dua after fard prayer, assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum, and wipe his body and washes it and showers it and puts some conditioning on his hair after every single salah. This is pathetic. The Prophet is telling you, make dua in sujood, Allah will answer you. And he said, no, thanks, not interested. So Suad, you want Allah to protect your family, to increase your health, to do this and that, do it in your sujood and stop everything else. Now, shouldn't we raise our hands and make dua? I didn't say that. What I said was, do not make it a habit that after every fard salah or after every voluntary salah, you raise your hand and make dua, because the Prophet never did this. However, between adhan and iqamah, the adhan is called. I said my adhkar, I did my repetition, or I repeated after the muadhin, and I said the adhkar, and then between adhan and iqamah, I can raise my hands and make dua. In the middle of the night, I wake up, I pray tahajjud, and I want to take a break of 10 minutes, I raise my hands and make dua. It's raining, not men. And I raise my hands and make dua. It is the rooster sound before Fajr, 1 hour. And I hear the rooster's voice, I make dua because it saw an angel. The Prophet said, ask Allah from His grace whenever you hear a rooster. These are the times where I raise my hand and make dua, no problem. But not after every fard prayer, not after every voluntary prayer. I hope this answers your question. Iman from Morocco. Iman.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
In a couple of months, inshallah, I will be going to Umrah, and I just wanted to ask, after Umrah, while in Mecca, what is more preferable for me to extra tawaf or make dua or pray?
All of these are good. However, praying in your room is more rewarding for you than praying in the masjid. Though praying in the masjid is halal, is permissible. Making tawaf is highly recommended, and it's a good form of worship. Dua is to be done 24 hours, 7 days a week, without any problem. So it depends on your preference, on what's closer to your hearts and what you feel that would get you closer to Allah, the Almighty Azza wa Jal. Ubay from Tunisia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Come salam to Allah.
First off, I want to say there's Zoom bombers in the meeting.
Zoom bombers. I don't know about this, and I'm a dinosaur. Ubay, Aishak Rabbi. I don't know about these things. So it's the admin who is supposed to know how to mute everyone else and not to allow people to bomb us, a'udhu billah, from bombs and terrorists. Yes, Akhi.
Yeah, my question is, in Sunnah prayers that have 2 tashahhud, like the 4 rak'ahs before Dhuhr, do we recite the opening supplication and the isti'adha only at the beginning, or once in the first rak'ah and once again in the third rak'ah after saying takbir? Jazakallah khair.
Wa jazak. First of all, it's an issue of dispute whether Sunnah before Dhuhr of 4 rak'ahs to be treated as a single prayer like Dhuhr, or a separate prayer 2 by 2. Abu Hanifa's madhab is to deal with it as 4, like Dhuhr. And Shaykh al-Albani authenticated some of the hadiths that they are 4. The vast majority of scholars say that voluntary prayers should be 2, concluded by salam, then another 2, concluded by salam, and so on. Depending on the hadith, Salatul Layli, Mathna Mathna, and in another addition, Salatul Layli wan Nahar, which some scholars made that weak. However, when you pray 4 Sunnah together as a one single prayer, a lot of the scholars would say you're blamesworthy. This is not according to the Sunnah. But if you break it into 2 by 2, even the Hanafis would say, okay, it's not the best thing to do, but yeah, your prayer is accepted. Hence, this is what I recommend you to do. Secondly, if you insist and say, no, I'd like to follow the hadith according to Shaykh al-Albani's authentication and to Abu Hanifa's madhab, and I pray it as a single prayer, in this case, the isti'adha and the du'a ul-istiftah can only be said in the first rak'ah. And the first, second, third, and fourth rak'ah, you don't say that, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have until we meet next Saturday. I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.